Okay guys, so now we're going to move to one of the more confusing aspects of the game. We are moving on to what's called the dark side. We're kind of flipping the switch. So we have covered up to this point the pass line bet and how the come bet is just a brand new pass line bet. You're just starting a new game, right? So the pass line is, as we've said, betting on the point. You know, for instance, you have a $10 pass line bet, a 9 rolls. You can do odds if you like, and if the 9 rolls again to make the point, then the pass line bet wins and the odds win. And the odds win true odds. There's no house edge. Now, if a 7 were to roll, then that would lose. So the question comes up is, can you bet that? Can you bet that the point will not be made? Absolutely, yes you can. Now the first thing I want to say is that people that don't know a damn thing about this game will say, oh, you're betting with the house. No, you are not betting with the house. That is one of the dumbest things we've ever heard in our lives. If you were betting with the house wouldn't exist. The house never loses. So if a player could bet with the house, then the casinos would lose money and would be closed. There is, of course, a house edge built into this as well. Now, since the pass line bet is betting that the shooter makes the point, the don't pass is betting that the shooter does not. Now, when people ask how the don't pass works, I will tell them that it is basically flipping things around. Almost everything reverses from the pass line. So, on a come out roll, when there is no point, how does the pass line win? What rolls of the dice? 7 and 11. So if you flip that, on the don't pass, 7-11 loses. Now, on the pass line, on a come out roll, how does the pass line lose? 2, 3, and 12. So if you were to flip that around, how does the don't pass win? You're going to say 2, 3, and 12, and that's not true. 2 and 3, the don't pass wins. On a 12, it's a push. Another thing that people that don't understand the game will say is they will say that they are betting the don't pass bar. Or they will ask, what's the don't pass bar? Right? It is the don't pass bar, the 12. I love how people can read don't pass bar, but this that's in color is somehow invisible to them. It's the don't pass bar, the 12. Bar means except. So it's the don't pass except the 12. The 12 is an exemption. That is where the house edge is built in on the don't pass, is that 12. So on the don't pass, that means there's 3 ways to win, the 2 and the 3, right? The 2 only has 1 combination of dice, the 3 has 2 combinations of the dice, and there's 8 ways to lose. Now, once there is a point, at that point, the don't pass is the favorite, because it wins on a 7, right? And there is not a single number that has more combinations of the dice than the 7 does. For an 8, there'd be 5 combinations for an 8 to roll, 6 for a 7 to roll. So no matter what, once there is a point, the don't pass is the favorite. It is while the point is off that the don't pass is at a severe disadvantage. Severe disadvantage. Most players that lose on the don't pass either lose during the come out because of the come out roll and because of a hot come out roll, or they lose just because they happen to bet the don't pass and bump into the 20-minute shooter. That just, just happens. Now, if you can bet odds on a pass line bet, can you bet odds on a don't pass? Absolutely. It is no longer called odds. It's called a lay. Right? So it is just like the pass line bet, only it flips. For the pass line bet, it's true odds. So you bet whatever you bet to win more. If you're on the 6 and 8, you bet $5 to win 6. If you're on the 5 and 9, you bet every 2 wins 3. On the 4 and 10, it just pays double. Doubles whatever you bet. Right? So for the don't pass, for a lay, because as we know, flat bets always pay even money. So that would pay even money if it were to win. For the lay, the don't pass version of odds, it flips. You bet more money to win less. And it's just a reversal, which means that the don't pass, it is very, very, very critical that lays are what we call proper bets. Later on in the course, at the very end of the course, I'm going to cover how to calculate an improper bets payout. but lays need to be proper. Dealers need to pay attention to the lays. So if everything flips, if you lay the 6 and 8, now you have to bet 6 to win 5. Because again, true odds, 6 ways to win, 5 ways to lose. So 6 to 5, or 5 to 6. So you have to bet 6 to win 5, which means that the lay must be in units of 6. 6, 12, 18, 24. On the 5 and 9, they must be in units of 3, because every 3 pays 2. In the 4 and 10, they just have to be even, because they pay half. Since odds pay double, lays pay half. On the 5 and 9, since odds pay 3 to 2, lays pay 2 to 3. And on the 6 and 8, since odds pay 5 to 6, lays pay 6 to 8. So it is critical to know the odds and how they pay. Now, the first twist that gets thrown in there, let's say we are on a $15 minimum bet table. So lays must be in units of 6. Now lays are always heeled off, away from the flat bet, and they're always the closest to the dealer. So, because we pay coming around this way, the lay should be first, right? Because just like with pass line and how we pay odds first, we pay lays first. So lays have to be heeled off. If in the odd event that someone puts, say, $100 down, maybe you're on the 10, puts a black chip down for a lay, you actually need to swap it out for green so that you can heel it off. So if you're on the 6 or 8, you're on a $15 minimum bet table, they tried to do a $12 lay, they're not allowed to. Because what's the minimum bet? 15 bucks. But here's the twist. So, 5 and 9. 5 and 9, every 3 pays 2, so they have to be in units of 3, they're lays. So they decide they want to lay $15. No bet. No bet. They cannot do that bet. So let's look at this again. We're on a $15 minimum bet table. Therefore, the lay must pay the table minimum. Since 15 pays 10, that is a no bet on a $15 minimum bet table. The lay must pay at least the table minimum. What that also means is that a $21 lay on a 5 and 9 would be a no bet. Because if every 3 pays 2, that means that pays $14. Just a little shy. So the first proper bet on the 5 and 9 that would pay at least table minimum is 24. All right, 24 would pay 16. So there we go. Same thing with the 4 and 10. You run into that a lot. Because it pays half, that means they need to at least double the table minimum. So, let's talk about one more thing. And this also confuses the heck out of people. And I'm going to set these up right in front. So with a lay, and again, we're on a $15 minimum bet table, so actually I don't want to do that. They could lay 40 if they wanted to, right? And that would pay 20, so they are over the table minimum. Now, things must be even. Let's look at, I'm trying to think of a good example. Look at a $20 flat bet. I'm going to set these up in front of the numbers, okay? $20 flat bet. Let's say that if the 10 were the point, player decides they want to lay 40 bucks. What does that pay? 40 on the 4 and 10. 4 and 10 reverse the odds, so it pays half. So 40 pays 20 bucks, right? What does the flat bet pay?
20.
Flat bet pays 20 bucks. So the lay and the flat bet pay the exact same, correct? Therefore, we will set up what we call a bridge. The beauty of a bridge, as long as if another dealer sets it up, you better trust that they know what they're doing. The beauty of a bridge is that when the 7 out occurs, you do not need to do any math to calculate out the payout. When there is a bridge, all you do is size into the back twice. That's all you do. Because the lay pays the exact same as the flat bet. So you just size in twice. So let's look at a $20 flat bet on the 9. Now this only works when it's in the same color. So if they lay $30, well 30 pays 20. And the flat bet is 20. So that would be a bridge. It would not work if it was green. You can't bridge this. But we could bridge this. And as my old instructor would say, the beauty of bridges is you don't have to think about it. All you have to do is hit it in the butt twice. Just size into the back twice. Just poke it in the butt twice. And you're good. So with the 6 and 8, obviously it has to be units of 6. So if with a $20 flat bet, you would need a $24 lay. Now here's the next twist for you. This only applies to the 5 and 9. If the flat bet is odd, it is absolutely impossible to have a bridge. Because let's think about this. Every 3 pays 2. So if you have odd numbered bet, say $15 flat bet, well, what lay would pay $15? $22.50. How in the hell can you do a $22.50 lay? You can't. So if it's odd, if the flat bet is odd, it is impossible to have a bridge on the bet. Now, at this point, we would tell dealers to run a very, very basic drill, just like you did at the very, very beginning, of set yourself out 2 or 3 pass line bets, and then set yourself out 2 or 3 don't pass bets, and roll the dice. On the come out roll, if a 7 or 11 were to roll, then you know your don't passes lose, and your pass line bets win. We always take the losers first. An extra one there. Then set yourself back up. Now let's say a 2 rolls. Well, if a 2 rolls, we know the pass line loses, and again we take from us around, and the don't pass wins. Do your best to leave your payouts inside the lines. Don't pay this one. This is a bet in a self-service betting area. Okay? So then you set your bets out again. What if a 12 rolls? Well, if a 12 rolls, you know the pass line loses, and the don't pass is a push, because it's barring the 12. Now, if you get a point when you roll the dice, go ahead and give yourself some odds, and give yourself some lays. Just remember how the lays must be proper. And run this 15, 20 minutes until you feel comfortable with knowing what wins, what loses, knowing how to pay the odds, how to pay the lays, when the don't pass loses, when the pass line wins, when the don't pass wins and the pass line loses. And get yourself comfortable with that, because the next step is going to be even more confusing if you have not gotten yourself comfortable with the lays and the proper lays. Okay guys, now for the fun part. So, the pass line bet is just a reversal of the don't pass. The don't pass rather is just a reversal of the pass line. Well, both sentences are actually true. The don't pass is just a reversal of the pass line bet. So the pass line bet, if someone's betting the pass line and they want to bet more numbers, they can do a come bet, which is just starting a brand new game. Only instead of using a puck to mark it, we travel the bet itself, the flat bet itself moves inside the number, and that is the puck signifying what the number is for that particular come bet. And then they're able to do odds, and we stack the odds on top, just slightly offset. And we go from there. Well, what about the don't pass? Can they do that? Well, absolutely. If you've got a pass line and a don't pass, you've got a come bet, you've got a don't come. Don't come, bar the 12. So just like the come bet, the don't come is a self-service betting area. Now, if you have multiple players betting it, which is rare, but it does happen, just like anything else, this follows the curve of the table. So if you have to, you move their bets and you tell them, hey, this is your spot. Make sure you put it right here so that I always know it's your bet. Now, the next number that rolls, now this is, again, just a reversal of the come bet. So this right here, this is in the middle of a come out roll. So if a 7 or 11 were to roll, then this would lose, just like the don't pass loses on a come out roll, right? 2, 3, or 12, this wins on a 2 or 3, pushes on a 12, right? You just pay it and you just leave it. It's a self-service betting area, okay? But if anything else happens, any other roll of the dice, it will travel. Now, come bets travel inside the number. don't come bets travel behind the number. Now here's the tricky thing, one of the many, many, many tricky things. You notice how narrow this is. This, again, should follow the curve of the table, but when it travels behind, if you were to have 8 people, then theoretically, to follow the curve of the table, it would look something like this. I have never once had 8 people play in the don't. Never, ever, 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 ever. But I have had up to 5. And it is very, very confusing because you have to figure out a way to put these bets behind the number and know who's got what bet. And it seems like it should be fairly easy because like I just showed you, all you have to do, theoretically I could do something like this, theoretically, to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, the 6 spots. However, that won't work. Why? How do we put the lays? Because of course they can lay it just like a come bet, they can put odds. And here's how we put the lays. Let's say we had one travel over to the 5. And the player decides they want to lay $30. They hand me $30 and say, I want to lay it. I want to lay my 5 for $30. Okay, cool. I have to heel it off just like I would on the don't pass. Now, when you heel this off, there's 2 very important rules with this. 1, it's heeled off away from the bet. And 2, it's heeled off away from the box. You do not heel a don't pass this way, ever. Not towards the box. It's always away from the box. You can either go directly behind or to the side in some way, shape, or form. So now you notice how difficult this would be if I had 5 people playing the don't pass and they all had lays. You see how much space this takes. Now imagine 5 players with don't pass bets. What I have to tell people, and this is the one of the few times that I have to say this during the dice class, is you do the best you can. There is no hard and fast rule on where you place these bets. You do the best you can. Now, here's the real fun part. I'm going to show you guys how this pays. There are a lot of procedural rules to how this pays. All right, guys, so the rules to paying out don't pass bets. Look at the mess we have here. This is 3 don't comes per number. That's it, just 3. I've had up to 5, but generally I have between 1 to 3, and a lot of players won't do a lay, so it's a lot cleaner. All right, so the lays are, of course, either away from the box or directly behind. I think I've got them all away from the box. All right? And I did my best to put them into positions that I can identify where the position is. Again, you just do the best you can. So now let's look at the payout rules. So when you're paying, and most things that are up here, you pay sweeping this way, but when you're paying, say, come bets, you pay from position 1 all the way around to position 8. Now with the don't come, you're going to do it a little bit differently, and the reason for that is game protection. So think about this. Let's say a 7 out were to occur, right? So the 7 just rolled. So you're cleaning up the pass line bets, and then you're cleaning up the don't pass bets. So there's a brief period of time where a player could do what we call pass posting, where they could cheat and add to their lay, right? Or the flat bet if they only had a flat bet. So let me ask you, which player would most easily be able to reach the don't come bets? The player standing closest to the dealer. Therefore, we pay closest to the dealer first. So we pay position 8 all the way down to position 1. Next question, which number could they most easily reach? Here it would be the 10. The other side of the table, it would be the 4. It's the number that is closest to them. So the first two rules to paying the don't come is you always pay from dealer to base, from base dealer to stick. Rule number 2 is you pay away from box towards box. Okay? The reason for that is if I'm paying here, my arms are blocking these bets, and I'm focused on this, the box can't see these bets, so the player could be cheating, could be adding to it. If I pay this first, the box has watched me pay it, and then I move on. Now if the player tries to manipulate something, well, the box watched me pay it. They know it's correct. So If anything changes, then they know the player changed it. The final thing is you pay one player at a time. Not one number at a time, you play one player at a time. Differences between the come and the don't come. The come bets, they win one number at a time. They lose all the numbers at a time. With the don't come, they win all the numbers at a time. They lose one number at a time. Because again, they're betting against one particular number. Come bets lose when a 7 comes. So all the numbers lose. Anything that has a come bet loses because they all are betting that their number rolls before a 7. The don't come are all betting that a 7 comes before the number that they are marked on. So they lose, all these lose if a 6 rolls. Whereas if a 6 rolled, all the come bets would win. So I'm going to show you how they pay. Now, some other rules. These are ones that you see get ignored a lot by dealers. Technically, the 2 numbers closest to box can only be dealt with my inside hand. The 2 numbers furthest from box with my outside hand. You notice I'm not saying particular numbers because on the other side of the table it would reverse. So the 2 closest to box, inside hand, 2 furthest from box, outside hand. The 2 in the middle, neutral, either hand. So you will actually use these for a neutral area sometimes. You will need a stopping point. So let's say a 7 out has occurred and I've already cleaned up my pass line, taken all the losers, paid the don't pass, and we'll have some bets in here that have lost, but since they're in here, we don't clean them up yet. We go straight to paying the don't. The don't comes. So I will start with position 8 and I start away from box. So I will look, position 8 I don't have a bet. This is position 7, so position 8 I don't have a bet, position 8 I don't have a bet, position 8 I don't have a bet. Over here, I have a bet. Now we always pay the lays first and then the flat bet, but we don't come back and forth to our stacks. So I'm going to say it out loud just like I would with the come bets. 40 pays 20 plus 10, so I'm going to drop cut 20 and then I'm going to size in 10. Put my stacks away. And now that I've paid all of position 8, they only have one bet. I've paid all of position 8. I'm going to clear my hands. Then I'm going to stack up all their money. Now, don't worry about giving them a rainbow stack. It's okay. Stack up their money into their position. Since he only has one bet, that's all I need to worry about. Now, you notice I pay with my inside hand. Now, I'm going to move it, but I'm going to move it to a neutral area. But I'm going to put it in position 8 so I don't mess anything up and accidentally take someone else's flat bet along with it. Now I switch to my outside hand, okay? But as I'm pulling this up, I'm going to say, no 4. Touch the don't come, and then put it behind the pass line, heeled off, just like you would with any other bet. So now that I paid position 8, now I don't have to say no 8, even though I stopped there, because he wasn't betting on the 8. So it was just no 4, because that was all he bet on. So now I moved to position 7, nothing. But here, position 7 has a bet. So I'm going to hit it in the butt twice. Then I'm going to look, no position 7. But over here, I've got a position 7. 24 pays 16. I'm going to have to switch checks here. 24 pays 16. Size in there. Nothing over here. So I'm going to clear my hands. Now here's why I'm clearing my hands. Because they're making sure that I'm not in collusion with the player and have chips palmed in my hand while I'm stacking. Right? So I clear my hands. Now I stack up their bets, and you can use 2 hands. It's okay if you're able to split your attention without making a mistake and locking up someone else's money, because I've seen people stack up someone else's flat bet or lay. Right? So I stack both of them up, and now I'm going to move them. So, no 5, but I have to go to a neutral area. Now I stack up onto the rest of their bet, and now I'm going to move it all over. Now, this is a lot to move over. I can split it up. No 9. And now I'm going to send it. I touched the don't come. Don't just hover. You don't go straight out. Touch the don't come. And now I'm going to send it out to position 7. This stack is so large, I am not going to heel it off. Okay. Also, if you're a roulette dealer, sometimes you will have these you will have 3 or 4 stacks. And if you're a roulette dealer, by all means, send it on out as best you can. Most dice dealers, kind of specialists in dice, some deal roulette also, but I could go pretty high up and still send this out. So I'm going to send that out to position 7, and I'm not going to heel it. It's right on the seam of the table underneath. So next I move on to position 6. Position 6, I've got a bet here. So 20 pays 10. Right? Now here's a trick you can do with these. I'm going to pick up half of it, I'm going to size in and drop that off. That does not mean it's a bridge. I've seen dealers that then size in twice. Like, what are you doing? And then the flat bet pays the flat bet. No position 6, no position, no, I have position 6 right here. Right? So, 12 pays 10, same thing. I'm going to pick up this 2, size in, boom. And then the flat bet pays the flat bet. No 6, no 6. Clear my hands and stack it all up. This, by the way, is another reason that don't do this trick unless you are able to pay attention. Because I've seen dealers that ignore this now because it looks like someone else's leg. It looks like a bridge, it looks like someone else's bet. I'm going to stack it all up, and again, don't worry about giving them a rainbow. That's okay. Now, since this is a neutral area, I'm just going to start with this hand to begin with. No 6. Too much for me to move all at once. No 10. I've touched the don't come. I moved out to position 6. Position 5. Nothing, 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 nothing. Position 5 has not been in the don't come. Position 4. It's a bridge, so I just got to hit the butt twice. No position 4. Position 4 right over here. 24 is going to pay 20, but I can just lift it up. Size in, nothing, nothing. Clear my hands, stack them up. Again, I can use this hand, so no 6, no 10, and straight out to position 4. No, nothing for position 3. Over here I've got a position 3, 30 pays 20, and 10. You do the best you can. I left this, didn't I?
Yes.
I did.
Okay, never mind. No more stupid questions.
Yeah, I left that. And that's going to happen. And you catch it, you fix it. Well, you'll let the box know and then you fix it. So we'll have people that will ask, well, how do I pay these? Where do I pay these? You do the best you can. You just do the best you can. So position 3 here, good. Over here, position 3, hit it in the butt twice. And over here, I also have a position 3, right? 30 pays 15. And then I'm going to size in. Notice I'm using my inside hand. And clear my hands. There's no particular order to stacking them up, but I recommend that you don't do this. So I'm going to stack up these bets. Again, I'm not worried about leaving a rainbow. But I stack them up in their position. Okay. No 4.
So you in theory don't leave them behind.
Correct. So I don't accidentally leave it in someone else's spot, or leave the bet. Okay, so no 4. Now I have to go to a neutral area. No 5, or I should be grabbing with that hand anyway. Go to a neutral area. I don't have to say no 8 because they weren't betting against me. No 9. Off to position 3. Move on to 2. So over here, 40 pays 20. Size in. 36 pays 24. This is a little bit more of an advanced move, so you don't want to do this all the time, but I could do this. Okay, I'm not going to manipulate a flat bet ever, just like on the pass line. And right over here, 30 pays 20. And size in. Clear my hands. Stack it up. No 5. Go to the neutral area. No 9. No 10. Out to position 2. Now, position 1. Hit it in the butt twice, both of them are bridges. Clear my hands. Stack them up. Yes, sometimes you'll be doing this. Yes, you'll have your outside hand in this area. Not a huge deal. No 4. No 6. Touch the don't come. Go out to the player. And that is how you pay the don't come. It is very, 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 very complex. A lot of rules. Once you have it down and you truly understand it, it's actually pretty easy. For those of you guys that are going to be looking for a drill on this, the drill that we used to run in the schools, or that I used to run for my students, I will have that, when this video goes up, I will also have that going up on our Patreon for our fans. So, and it'll be up there for anybody that's a second tier and higher fan. So If you need that drill, go ahead and check us out on Patreon. Otherwise, this technically concludes the first phase of the course. Now, we're going to ignore these towers for a second. I do want to cover two final small things. As you know, with a pass line bet, even though there's a point, you can always add to your bet, right? So if you have a $15 bet, you're at max odds, you want to do more odds, you can always add to your pass line bet. So then that gives you a greater amount of odds, 3, 4, 5, or 10 times or whatever. However, it's not the best bet, but players can do it. They can add to their pass line. You just can never take it away. The don't pass is, of course, reversed. You can never add to your don't pass once there's a point, but you can always take it away. You can always make it smaller. But once you do, you can't put it back. So they all flip. Same thing with a don't come. You can make it smaller, you can take it down. Some players will never choose an 8 or 9. So if they have a don't pass and an 8, or sorry, 6 or an 8. If 6 or an 8 rolls, you go to travel it and they say no action. You wave your hand over it. That signifies to the cameras that you didn't forget this bet, but that the player doesn't want any action. You don't move it. Right? Because that's the equivalent of coming over here and then the player saying, take it down. Cool. Give it back to them, and they say, they put it right back and they don't come. So you just, exactly. So you just no action it, and you're good to go. So they cannot choose to put a don't come behind a number, whereas a pass line player can choose to put a come bet into the number. It's called a put bet. They can come, instead of going through the come, they could pick their number with a come bet. They could say, I want to put the 6 with 25 odds. Cool. Of course that's allowed, because you can always make the bet bigger, so you can always just come straight down. That's why a player walking up after there's a point is allowed to just put their money right down out of the pass line. It's not the best bet, but they're allowed to, and then put odds. Right? There are better bets, and you guys will learn that in phase 2. So if they're allowed to do that after there's a point, of course they could do that with a come bet. It's called a put bet. They can put directly into the point. It favors the house. They skip the come, which they're a 2-to-1 favorite to win, and go straight into the number where the odds are against them. So of course the house is going to allow it. Of course that's within the rules of the game. Whereas you cannot put behind a number because it favors the player. It's against the house. But what if you want to pick a number and bet against it? What if? Well, for those of you guys that know how to deal Bach, this is actually going to be a little bit easier as far as one of the more tricky parts of it. They can do what's called a direct lay. There is no flat bet. Flat bets always pay even money. But they can do a direct lay. They pick their number and they directly lay it. Lay it, which means the odds, which means they are betting more to win less. Right? Now here's the thing. If we allowed people to just do a straight direct lay, let's say someone said, I want to lay the 8 for $30, right? Because 30 would pay 25, right? Every 6 pays 5. Right? Since it's a lay, it's paying the odds. Well, if we just allowed that, it's basically a free bet. It's an invisible bet in a way, because it doesn't favor anybody, neither the player nor the house, because it's paying true odds. So where's the house making their money? Commission. 5% commission. 5% commission. It's called the Vig. All right, they have to pay the Vig. They have to pay a 5% Vig up front in most places. Some places afterwards, but I actually don't know of any out here. They have to pay it up front, and it must be proper. So if someone said, I want to do a $75 lay on the 5, again, it's called a direct lay. You put a lay button on it. You don't heel it. You put a delay button on it. 75 would pay 50. 5% of that is $2.50. Now we have what we call courtesy lays and craps, or courtesy commissions, courtesy vig. So instead of rounding up like we usually would, at the $50 mark, most of the time it's rounded down. 25 and 50 are the two spots that are generally rounded down. 25 would be 1 1/4, so we charge $1. 26 we would charge $2. 50 would be 2.5. We're actually going to charge 2, whereas generally on a vig, if it hits the 50-50 mark, we go up. And in this case, we're only going to charge the 2, and they pay it up front. So that 5% is the house edge. Now, one thing that does confuse people sometimes, we say direct lay. So someone could say, I want to lay the 4. It's actually very common, the 4 and 10. I want to lay the 4 for $100 or for $200. That would pay $100. $5 vig. The vig is always on the smallest amount. There's 2 times that we have vigs in craps, and it's always on the smallest amount between the bet and the payout. So in this case, a $200 bet, the payout is $100, so which is smaller, $100. So the vig is based off that $100. It's always going to be based off the smallest amount. Now, verbiage. Players will say, a player might throw this to you and say, no 4. No means they want to lay it. So if someone throws me 205 and says no 4, that means that they want a $200 no 4, $200 no 4, $200 lay against the 4 with their $5 vig, $5 commission. Now if they say I want to take my lay down before it wins or loses, they say hey I want to take it down, because of course you can take a lay down, you can take odds down, they get their commission back. So we would give their commission back and we would hand them off their lay. Now for the final thing that can confuse people from time to time. Now this is in general. There's a few casinos that will do it differently. But for the most part, this is how it's going to be done. Let's say somebody says, I want a $100 no 10. Cool. That's going to be $2 commission, right? Because it pays $50, right? So let's say the dice roll maybe an 8 rolls. And then they say, let me get a $100 no 4. Cool. That pays $50. What's the vig? $3. Vig is $3. Because if a 7 were to roll, how much are they winning? They're winning $100. 50 and 50. What is 5% of 100? $5. It's $5. So they don't get to pay $2 and $2. It's $2 and $3. It's totaled up. Totaled up. Which also means, let's say on a $10 minimum bet table, and a player says, I want a $20 no 10 and a $20 no 4. And they bet it all at the same time. $20 no 10, $20 no 4. Cool, $1. It's going to be $1 because they both win $10. So that combines to $20. That means that their vig is only going to be $1. If someone wanted a $75 no 5, and then they later on bet a $75 no 9, they were charged $2 here, they were charged $3 here because they will win $100. It totals up, you add it up. Now this officially concludes phase 1 of the dice course. Again, don't forget, if you need the drill, check us out on Patreon for all of our level 2s and above. Otherwise, phase 2 should be coming shortly. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye now.